Hi, this is Cheryl Gallant, your Conservative Member of Parliament for the awakened riding of Renfrew-Nipissing-Pembroke. Canada's Disney Princess Minister of Finance has declared mission accomplished on the war on inflation. The Bank of Canada reported that food prices are up 9.1% since last year. The cost of mortgage interest is up 30%. Under Trudeau's Liberals, it's become more expensive to feed and shelter yourself. Never before in recorded history have so many felt that their children will have a lower standard of living. Thanks to the out-of-touch Liberals like Freeland, our standard of living is declining. Inflation is being driven by big government spending and supply chain disruptions. For a trading nation like Canada, there is no bigger supply chain disruption than the closure of a major shipping port. Thanks to the incompetence of Trudeau, the port in Vancouver is shut down. Trudeau's minister has declared it an illegal strike. So we have an illegal blockade of critical infrastructure. The fact that they have not invoked the Emergencies Act is a clear sign of the Liberals' dirty double standard. The Liberals just don't care about the impact this is having on Canadians. All they care about is pitting Canadians against one another, promoting their wokeness. Speaking of the radical woke ideology, Toronto's new socialist mayor is pushing for a ban on two-stroke engines in Toronto. Trudeau's helping by lacing even high-test gasoline with engine-killing ethanol. It'll only be a matter of time before other left-wing city councils start to copy and paste Toronto's engine ban into their own bylaws. For people who live outside Renfrew County or don't subscribe to my newsletter, the list of devices Toronto wants to ban is shocking. It includes lawnmowers, leaf blowers, hedge trimmers, generators, rototillers, chainsaws, drills, pressure washers, concrete and metal saws, and water pumps. Just to highlight how out of touch socialists are when it comes to outdoor work, they are proposing to set up lending depots for electric motorized items. Instead of going into your garage or shed to get your lawnmower, you'll need to purchase an electric car you can't afford or Uber to the depot. Then you can sign out a heavily used, barely functional lawnmower. Find an Uber big enough to take it home, attempt to mow your lawn, then back in the car you can't afford, or pay an Uber truck to take it back to the depot. Eventually, every rented motor will come with a safe supply of opioids. When socialists say you will own nothing and be happy, this is the vision they have in mind. Even if your local municipality is not run by radical socialists, thanks to Trudeau's so-called clean fuel regulations, many two-stroke engines will be rendered inoperable. After 8 years of Justin Trudeau, the price of a home in Canada has doubled. Last week, Trudeau's hapless Minister of Housing claimed there is no housing crisis. He claimed housing is not a political issue. He claimed left-wing city councils were not to blame. 2 days later, the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, a federal crown corporation which reports to the Minister of Housing, released a damning report. The report measured how long it takes to build a house in municipalities across Canada. It also measured the length of red tape involved. It then compared the red tape to the price of a house. To no one's surprise, the study revealed everything our conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre, has been saying is correct. Radical socialist city councilors who push for more red tape are the key drivers of high housing prices. This is a political issue, and there's something the federal government can do. That's why a new conservative government under Prime Minister Pierre Poilievre will withhold funding to big cities until they cut red tape and get housing built. We'll bring homes people can afford. It's just common sense. The one thing in short supply in Ottawa is common sense. Nothing illustrates this more than the recent news that thousands of Canadians living in rural community will have their so-called carbon tax rebate cut while the carbon tax goes up. One of the major criticisms of the carbon tax is that it is unfair to rural Canadians. We don't have the option of switching to public transit when Trudeau increases the cost of gas. Thanks to Trudeau's failure on housing, more and more Canadians have to move out to the country just to afford a home. This means longer commutes and even more carbon taxes. The Liberals tried to pave over this inequality by sending rural Canadians an additional 10% of the carbon rebate. The Liberals defined a rural Canadian as anyone who does not live in a census metropolitan area. A census metropolitan area, or CMA for short, is a technical term used by Statistics Canada to describe more than just a city. The goal is to try and describe an economic area of influence. That is why Ottawa is combined with Gatineau and called the Ottawa-Gatineau Census Metropolitan Area. Thousands of people live in Gatineau and work in Ottawa, just as thousands live in Ottawa and work in Gatineau. If you're opening a business in Ottawa, you don't just want to know how many people live in Ottawa. You also want to know how many customers are within reasonable driving distance. The point of creating CMAs was to help with all kinds of different studies and to statistical analyses. It was never intended to be used to determine if someone lives in a rural community or not. And it should not be the basis for who gets the money and who does not. But that's just what the Liberals have done. So when the 2021 census was completed, Statistics Canada looked at the data, and according to the criteria, it's classified both Arnprior and McNabb-Braeside as being part of the Ottawa-Gatineau CMA. This means a farm household on one side of a remote road is considered to be rural, and the farmhouse across the street is now considered urban. Just Google Waba, Ontario, and tell me that isn't a rural community. For people living in these rural communities, nothing has changed. There's still no public transit. Their place of work hasn't moved closer. Yet they are all getting 10% less in rebates than they received last fiscal quarter. After 8 years, Canadians are tired of Trudeau dividing us. We're going to scrap the tax that punishes Canadians based on where they live altogether. Live from the Ottawa-Gatineau Census Metropolitan Area, this is Cheryl Gallant.